He's the voiceover studio engineer of the Stars in Los Angeles, California, a Virginia Tech grad with a knowledge of recording studios unmatched in his field. He's a voice actor from Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic. He solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in L.A., here are Dan Leonard and George Whittam.
Good evening. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East West Audio Body Shop. Well, good evening. Well, again, what else were you going to do on a Sunday night? It's gorgeous all over the country. It certainly is nice here in the East. It's probably the same out West, is it not, George?
I believe I do see blue skies and a few clouds, and it's about
blue
70.
Skies shining on me. All right. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you tonight. Interesting discussion, some interesting calls, and our special guest, God willing, will be Rebekah Wilson from Source Elements. And they are the makers of Source Connect, which is, interesting discussion all over the internet about Source Connect and the voiceover industry.
It's sweeping the nation.
It is, and it has been for a while. But people are saying, ISDN, Source Connect. ISDN, Source Connect. I have my opinions on it. Of course, I'll probably bring them up sometime tonight. So, and I think there was some discussion on one of the forums. Yeah, I don't spend any time on the forums. I don't see any of this stuff. But there's some very interesting discussions about really what is the best way to do remote, and is it actually totally necessary? And I think it just sort of depends on the individual situation and the type of work they do.
And the type of work, the market they're working in, the necessity to be available at a moment's notice, that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, if when political season comes around, and people who do political ads know what I'm talking about, you have to know, you have to be able to get, be available, and ISDN is real necessary for that. Or if you're doing a lot of national flight spots and you've got, some agent that's like, we only do it by ISDN because that's the only way. Well, you got to have ISDN if you want to do that kind of work. But there are alternatives. I mean, heck, we've been experimenting with Skype. And I was working with somebody in Sweden, and they were like, I want to test this thing for Skype and see if I can do it remote with Skype. I'm like, okay. And it actually worked pretty good.
I'll tell you the fidelity of Skype when it comes to video chat programs, because Dan and I have tried them all. And it beats everybody by a long shot. The sound quality is quite good. It's not the bandwidth of Source Connect. It doesn't have that same. It should, for it to be broadcast quality, it should sound like you're playing back an MP3. It should be that good, and it's not quite there, but it's creeping up. It's getting really good. So,
yeah, and then you get down to the question of what really is broadcast quality.
That is a very good question, but
that's more your department than anything else. Yeah. But having been in broadcasting for many years and knowing some of the garbage I've heard come out of some television speakers, I think it's sort of a kind of a nebulous concept.
Yeah, really, no kidding.
Anyway, we will be taking your calls tonight, and remember, if you want to get on our show, we'd love to have you on. We get so many emails from all of our great fans who want to be on East West Audio Body Shop. The place to write to is ewabshop, that's EWABSHOP, only one S, at gmail.com. Give us your question. If we think that's a great question to have on here, we'll have you on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something about home studio stuff. It can be a bit more general. We can talk about stuff in the voiceover industry, especially the home studio voiceover industry, which is, we're kind of unique. And I know all you guys out there that are regular viewers, you know how unique you are and how unique a business this is. And
some are more unique than others.
Definitely. And looking at some of the people in the chat room, I know there's some real unique folk out there. Anyway, it's time for our first caller. Good evening. You're on East West Audio Body Shop. Who's calling?
This is Lee calling.
Lee, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're great. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Connecticut.
Connecticut.
It's a beautiful part of the world.
I don't know. This beautiful country no matter where you are, except maybe Southwest Kansas if you've ever been there. Anyway, so what brings you with us tonight, Lee?
Well, before you could get to Source Connect or ISDN, you need to have a nice quiet place to do your business.
Sure do.
And what I'd like to know about is what are some of the good ways to keep the outside noise out and keep the stuff from the outside world from getting in and getting onto your recordings.
Well, let's see. There's a number of things you can do. One, you being in the East, do you have a basement?
Yeah, but it's not really suitable. And one of the noise problems is right in the basement, which is the furnace. That's one of the noises I'd like to try to keep out.
Right. Well, there's a number of things you can do. I mean, there's the tried and true way, and that's spending $3,000 for a whisper room. But as I like to tell people, you can spend $3,000 on a whisper room, or you can wait for your neighbor to stop cutting his grass. A lot of my philosophy personally is it's a timing thing and it's a patience thing. As we were just talking about the immediacy of political spots or something along those lines, if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. But generally, if you wait and are patient, you can generally wait till certain noises go by, although you can try and mitigate them best you can. If you've got lots of dampening in your studio, that helps a little bit. It's not soundproofing, of course. It's sound dampening thing. So it prevents things from bouncing around the room. If you live in a really noisy neighborhood, well, as someone once said, you live where you choose to live. And, an interior closet is a great place to go to because you can close the door and that will keep you out, especially if you have a lot of clothes in that closet. And that generally will provide a nice quiet area. If you're in your office, then you've got to set up some acoustic paneling, things along those lines. Or you build yourself a booth. And as our friend Paul Strickwerda in Pennsylvania found out, it's quite an involved thing to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I was going to ask you. I mean, I always have to ask first, what's the budget? Because it really does come down to
matter.
Well,
because there's a lot of different solutions that cost a lot of different amounts of money.
Right. I'm thinking in terms of lowest possible amount of money spent
Closet
for an acceptable result.
Right. Understood. Cheap, fast, good. Pick two.
Doesn't have to be fast. It can be cheap and good.
Okay.
It takes its time.
Sweat equity. You can put some labor into it, some time.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Well, I would say, what is the situation in your home? Is the room you want to use the worst room in the house noise wise, or is it the best?
No, it's probably the best, but there's still noise that can get in from the street and even from various mechanicals within the house. And I would like to be able to remove as much of that as I can. I mean, it's not bad now, but I would like to make it better.
Okay. I mean, the question really comes down to is the degree of severity of the problem and what frequency range it occurs over. Is it only low frequency rumble stuff that's way down low? Is it broadband like birds and dogs and everything else? Is it a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it's not really necessarily low. It's mostly things like refrigerator compressors and air conditioners, which I can turn off, but I'd rather not have to turn every air conditioner off if I don't have to, and the furnace in the wintertime, and things like that.
Okay. HVAC air conditioning is the most expensive probably to deal with. If you're using, is it central air?
No, I have some room air conditioners. I can just shut them off. So that's that, and that's what I do.
Right. Yeah. No, those wall-mounted units are horrendous.
Yeah,
they let noise through. First of all, they let noise right through the wall. You've in essence cut a gigantic hole in your wall. So there's your first problem. Second problem, they're noisier than all get out. So if you want to improve that situation drastically, You plug off that hole, and you basically create an air exchange to the neighboring room. And you use the room next door to that room as your chiller. That room will be nice and chilly, but at least you'll be...
Fortunately, fortunately, the air conditioner is in the next room, so it's not right in that room. So that's why I would even be tempted to leave it on at times, but because it's in the next room as opposed to in the studio itself.
And do you do like a particularly soft read? Like, is your stuff like a very intimate, quiet read, or is your stuff a little bit more aggressive?
Depends on the situation.
Right, you're doing a little bit of everything.
I do whatever's called for.
Yeah.
All right. Do you do more long format stuff, Lee, or is it a mishmash of all sorts of stuff?
Again, it can be a 10-second commercial, or it can be a 10-minute audio visual. It just depends on what's coming through the door.
Have you ever looked at the meters when you start the software and you're just sitting there listening to the room and basically recording the noise floor? Have you ever noticed what the meters show you, or is it like minus 30 or minus 40?
Oh no, it usually, when it's noisy, it's around minus 45, and when it's quieter, it's down around minus 58, something like that. So it's not horrible.
No, that's fine. The thing is that opens up lots of possibilities, because the philosophy, at least with me, and I know with George, the first thing you want to do is you want to eliminate the physical noise. Try and eliminate things as in reality, as opposed to having to deal with things electronically. If you can get your noise floor down to anywhere between minus 48 and minus 50, somewhere along there, that's when you can start to effectively use a noise gate and in a number of other, and some new sound reduction technologies that are coming out. I know there's some cool stuff that's in the new Audition CS5 that I've been toying around with that works really, really well. But if it's loud, if you get more like 46, 45 and louder, then you're going to start having a problem. So if you can physically get that noise down, I mean, I have a refrigerator above me here, and I've put anti-vibration foam underneath it. It cut down about 5 dB of noise. I'm like, what is that? I can see it in the spectrogram, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, it's the refrigerator, or it's my kids walking like elephants up in the kitchen. But that's what you have to do. You've got to go and find each individual source, try to attenuate it from the source, and try to do the best you can. If you can get it down to about that level, then you can start using some stuff electronically to where it will be seamless and you won't really notice.
Sure. Where would one find anti-vibration foam? What kind of thing would you look for? I mean, where would you source it? Is there a name for it, a brand name?
I got a pile of it right here.
It's more of a rubber than a foam, right, Dan? Or is it like a rubber closed cell? It's like neoprene.
Yeah, it's very much like neoprene. And what you do is you just go on the internet and you look for sound, a vibration of foam or something along those lines. Some of the soundproofing companies have this stuff. I got this from a place in Pennsylvania, and it was not easy getting it underneath the refrigerator. I had to find these boards that I could put the wheels from the refrigerator on and put. It was worth it though, because I don't have the noise here anymore.
So that's definitely an issue that I'd like to tackle, and that would be one potentially good solution.
You can put that below the air conditioners too. Actually, you can wedge it in underneath the air conditioners. Anything that's creating a hum. But here's another key thing: if the noise you're dealing with is a hum, just a continuous, you can do a remarkably effective job by doing a really careful EQ setting with a parametric EQ, where you notch out those frequencies, 60 hertz, 120 hertz. You basically put a notch at those two frequencies, and you'd be amazed at the difference. It will make no audible difference in your voice range, in your voice, but it'll knock out an incredible amount of that hum. So, practical, cheap fix.
This is not going to solve the same type of problem, but are you guys familiar with a product called Quiet Rock?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Does it work?
It works. It's just... like any other thing, it's basically trying to solve the problem of having to use too much drywall. So it's basically out there to try. It's basically out there to keep you from having to put up 4 or 5 sheets of drywall to give you the same amount of density and noise reduction. So basically, it costs the same as 4 or 5 sheets of drywall. And it also it's difficult to work with, although I think they have a new version now that's easier to cut. But, drywall, you score and snap in about a quarter of a second. This stuff you saw and saw and saw. So, it like I said, cheap, fast, good. If you want to do it on your own and you got the time, it can work pretty well. But, hey, my daughter's guesting on the show tonight. Hey, Ella. Hey, come on in, since you're here and everything. Here comes Amy. Hey, let's get her on camera for a second. Come on.
That's it. Now I'm going to have to get my dog on camera.
Hey there. Say hello. Sorry, Lee. You can't see this, but you can watch it later. Since she was here, I might as well brought her in. But Quiet Rock does a pretty darn good job if it's installed correctly. I tend to lean towards this other stuff called green glue. Google it. I think it's a little easier to work with, in my humble opinion. And the testing says that it works better than Quiet Rock, especially in that low frequency range that's so difficult. It actually tends to work better, and I think it ends up being about the same or maybe a little bit cheaper than Quiet Rock. So another option for you. And
that's just something you would caulk seams with, or is that something that you
No, it's what they call a viscoelastic dampener. It looks like you're gluing panels together. It looks like panel adhesive, where you slather on a huge amount of this material between 2 layers of drywall.
Right, but you use normal drywall and just go up the side and use it as like liquid nails.
It's a sandwich. Yeah, you make a sandwich out of 2 pieces of 5/8, and this stuff goes in between. And use a liberal amount, a lot of stuff. So that's basically what you're trying to do.
All right. Interesting stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate the help.
No problem. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for calling in.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, we've got more coming up here on East West Audio Body Shop. We do have Rebekah Wilson hopefully coming up from Source Elements.
Actually, I got bad news about that.
What's
There's
that?
been an earthquake. They have had the most bizarre number of earthquakes in New Zealand where her family is, and that's where she is now. And I think it's pretty kind of scary down there right now. So she's she doesn't really have everything together to do the show today correctly and demonstrate Source Connect. So she thought it best that she reschedule with us. So sorry, guys. This was kind of last minute. And maybe we'll just have we'll have Ella guest. Is that what we're going to do? We're going to have you be our guest? Yeah. So, unfortunately, she won't be on. So if anybody wants to, we've got some things to talk about, of course. We could even continue our Source Connect discussion a little bit. I'd be happy to talk about its pros and cons, what it can do, what it can't.
I can too.
And we'll certainly be able to talk a lot about it, and we'll bring on Rebekah another time when New Zealand isn't shaking so much.
All righty. All right. Well, we're going to take a little break, and we'll have our next caller coming up in just a couple of minutes, and we'll take your calls. Now, what number should they? What Skype number are they supposed to call if they want to try and get on?
Sound Gun. Just the word Sound Gun. Yeah, I've had that name for 10 years.
Right.
That's the one.
Yeah, try Sound Gun, and we'll try and get you on here on East West Audio Body Shop. In the meantime, we'll be back right after this. Of voiceover, whether you've got years of experience or you're a newbie, having a home studio is essential. A home studio is a unique environment.
Every voice is different. Every room is different. Advice from friends is great, but you need someone with the experience of setting up hundreds of home voiceover studios. I'm Dan Leonard, the home studio master. Let me show you the best place in your home to set up, the right equipment, and how to properly use recording software. Plus, I troubleshoot your home studio nightmares. Wherever in the world you are, having a home studio is essential, but that doesn't mean you have to be a recording engineer. Let me show you how easy it is. Go to homestudiomaster.com or email me at homestudiomaster@verizon.net. I guarantee results. In the modern world of voiceover, whether you've got years of experience or you're a newbie, having a home studio is essential. A home studio is a unique environment. Every voice is different. Every room is different. Advice from friends is great, but you need someone with the experience of setting up hundreds of home voiceover studios. I'm Dan Leonard, the home studio master. Let me show you the best place in your home to set up, the right equipment, and how to properly use recording software. Plus, I troubleshoot your home studio nightmares. Wherever in the world you are, having a home studio is essential, but that doesn't mean you have to be a recording engineer. Let me show you how easy it is. Go to homestudiomaster.com or email me at homestudiomaster@verizon.net. I guarantee results.
And we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop. How are you guys this evening? Another wonderful Sunday night here. We got a nice crowd with us on East West Audio Body Shop. As we said, our guest Rebekah Wilson is unfortunately in New Zealand, where they're having all sorts of problems. Would have been really cool to hear what she had to say over Source Connect from New Zealand. And we'll talk a little bit more about Source Connect and ISDN and things like that a little later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I think we've got another caller on the line right now, George. Let's get him on.
Yeah, let me put him on right now.
All right.
East
Good
West
evening,
Audio
East West Audio Body Shop. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Roll Gorman.
Hi there.
How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good. You guys had your earlier guest waylaid by hobbits, I guess, right?
I pretty much.
What can we do you for?
Well, I don't know if this qualifies, but Dan seemed to think it might, so I got a question about audio recording software. For a long, long time, I've been using what started out as Cool Edit Pro, and I've got an early version of Adobe Audition. No complaints about it, but once in a great while, it'll reset itself to all of its factory defaults, which means every little tweak and thing I have saved in EQ or volume suddenly just goes away. And I've never been able to figure out how to back up those things as I find them and create them, and how to reinstall them.
And what's the name of the application again?
Well, it's called Adobe Audition now.
Oh, yes,
It used to be
yes.
Cool Edit Pro.
Okay, and what version is it?
I've got the old version of 1.5. It's up to, what, 3.5?
Yeah, it's up to 3. Yeah, it's up to 3.0 or something like that. Boy, that sounds like one of those weird isolated bugs. Have you ever done like a reinstallation of the software itself?
Well, I have on occasion when I have a computer die and I'd have to put it on the new computer.
Right.
This doesn't happen very often, but it's happened occasionally, and it occurred to me you guys might know how I could at least back up the presets I create over time, and then the next time it has to be installed, find that disk and add that in. But I haven't found anything so far that's told me how to do that.
Well, what I've noticed, am I on, George?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay, good. It's not perfect. It's the internet. Anyway,
Never explain, never apologize.
I
Sorry,
know.
that was my channeling Julia Child. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, what I have found, because using those presets is fabulous, because as you said, Raul, when you're you find a setting that you like, maybe a combination of a couple of things like some compression and a little EQ that makes something sound the way you want for a certain client or something along those lines. Usually, and in Audition, which I've been starting to use the new CS5, which I love talking about, although we have found a little glitch with it, which we'd like to tell the people at Adobe about. What you do is you click, you save. Usually there's like a folder and there's another thing in there, and you save the preset and you call it whatever you want, and generally it should pop back up anytime you go into your generalized presets. It'll have all the presets that are preset in there from the software.
Is that the part that's not happening, Lee? Is it not showing up the next time?
No. In fact, what I was raising the question about is that sometimes just at random, like once or twice a year, the software will just reset to all of its defaults without anything that I can tell being a cause. No lightning strikes, no computer malfunctions, and the rest of the programs work fine. But,
that's a nasty glitch. Yeah, here's one of the things you can do. Aside from saving the setting, in the software itself, write down all the variables. Right. What is your attack and release time?
The way we used to do it, you create a recall sheet and you write down all the settings.
The pen and paper is your friend. Huh?
Yeah,
that's what you use a clipboard for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that way, when if that happens, then you just go back and reset those things, and it's supposed to sound exactly the same.
Right. Well, it's not always an issue, but there have been some things where I've had to go back and revisit a project, and I have to go back and figure out by ear what the original sound was.
Yeah. That's definitely
like
challenging.
There might be an easier way to save those things.
Have you considered upgrading for $99?
Well, like Jack Benny says, when you're cheap, you're cheap. And the rest of the programs work so well, I just haven't seen the need to constantly upgrade.
Well, I'm not a big fan of constantly upgrading, mind you. I rarely tell people to upgrade anything, but if a problem is so insidious that you can't find a solution, and your system is up to par to run the newest version, at that point it may it could be the time to do it. But at least start with reinstalling the version you already have, and seeing if that clears up some glitches.
Like I say, this is 1.5, which I went out of my way to find used because at the time I was reading so many horrible things about
2.0. Yeah, 2.0 was a train wreck.
So I avoided that.
Yeah.
And then when people said 3 was a lot better, 1.5 still working. What the heck?
No, I totally hear you. I don't blame you at all. I'm the same. My attitude is the same about Pro Tools. If you're running Pro Tools 7 and it's rock solid for you, do not upgrade. There's really no good reason to upgrade Pro Tools for a voiceover actor. There's no features that you're missing out on that's going to be a game changer. But I feel the same way about every software. But these kinds of really hard to figure out bugs, sometimes need some kind of a drastic change to work out. Will it work? I really don't know. Basically, the place that I go when I'm having a problem that I cannot possibly fathom how to troubleshoot is the forums for the software itself, and every manufacturer now has forums. And to go on there and do a search for the error, basically the circumstance that you're dealing with, and give them as much detail as possible about the version of Windows operating system, your sound card, everything else. Because if you don't give it to them, they're going to tell you to give it to them. And
I will.
And go in there and. You would not believe how helpful the user communities are. I mean, these software companies are so lucky.
Evidently, I haven't dug deep enough for this particular problem.
Okay. I think that's the track for you to take before you go buying something. And if the answer you keep hearing is upgrade because that was a problem that they couldn't figure out, or one of those things, at that point, maybe consider doing it.
Well, at my place, it's a major accomplishment to get past that. Is it plugged in? I managed to answer that one.
I hear you.
Yeah. Well, and my general philosophy has always been, if there's an upgrade, get the upgrade, continue to use the old one, unless, of course, it shuts down the old one. I haven't seen that one happen yet. And then learn the new one, and as you find that there's glitches, perhaps in the upgrade, you can continue to use the old one, and then it upgrades to whenever they fix the glitches, depending on which company it is, some companies just make it worse. But that way, at least you have it.
Go ahead.
No, well, so I'm saying that it's important to have the latest to do things. There's just little bit of a learning curve with some of these software packages, and a little bit more of a curve than with others. With some people. So it's important to always make sure you've got what works. I think is the best way to look at that. So if it's working for you, then don't worry about it. But if you're losing your presets, write them down.
Yeah, that's the best thing we can tell you right now. Well, thanks for calling in. I hope we can see that come to an end for you, that problem.
All right, I'll feed you any updates I get.
Sounds great.
Great. All righty,
folks.
All righty. Well, guess what? Time for another break. We got another caller coming on in just a little bit, and we'll have a bit more of an in-depth discussion about ISDN and Source Connect in our next segment. So stay right where you are here on East West Audio Body Shop. And welcome back to East West Audio Body Shop. We're here almost every Sunday night. We're thinking about maybe, adjusting our summer hours here. This is putting on a TV show. It takes a lot of work, and, we're just on the internet. We love having you here. We're thinking maybe, during the summer we'll go every other week, which is probably best for everybody. So it gives you one Sunday night you can do something with your family. The next Sunday night you can hang out with us for an hour. So
yeah, and for me, it's all of us West Coasters. It's still prime daylight, beautiful daylight hours here. So they say burning daylight. So
that's true. It's still daylight here too, actually. But,
oh, geez, yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. But, we are interested in your input on our show. So, again, if you have a suggestion, you have a question, write to us at ewabshop@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. This is your show. We're just here sort of filling the time. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Anyway, unfortunately, our guest couldn't make it with us tonight, but we will have her on in the next couple of weeks. But we got some other great people lined up. I know we've got Bob Bergen wants to be with us, and who else have we been talking to?
I think we're going to have John Taylor back back in the studio again. And the latest person I just spoke to who said she was all over it is DB Cooper. The creator of VOBB.com.
Right. She's heavy duty into video games.
Game voice, yeah.
Game voicing.
She's apparently the screen queen.
Screen queen.
Yeah.
Screen queen.
Scream queen. Oh man, I'd say that 5 times. That's a good vocal warm up there, right?
That's true. Yes, but and probably one of the most interesting fashion statement people around.
Yeah, she's great. She's that steampunk thing going on. She can tell you all about being a steampunk. Anyway,
I thought that was a beer. No, that's something else. Anyway. Well, we've got a caller on here. We do want to talk a little bit about ISDN and Source Connect, but let's get our next caller on right now. And good evening, East West Audio Body Shop. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Tom Daniels from Cleveland.
Hey, Cleveland.
Yeah, we're down the road from you.
Yep, just up the Lakeshore Complex, as we say.
Lakeshore, right?
What can we do for you tonight?
Well, my question had to do with my actual, I have a number of different problems I'd like to solve, but I'd like to start at the root, which is my computer workstation.
when I have the software up for Adobe Audition, if I don't feed any audio, I shut everything down on my board and I just let the computer sit there. And if I click the monitor or the record, then I get a noise out of the computer at about minus 75 dB. Now, some people would say, well, that's below the noise floor, but I'd like to get rid of it. So I sent you a sample of it, amplified by about 75 dB so you could hear easily what it was. My question is there a filter that can be placed in line or some type of, thing that can be done to filter that out?
Well, let me have Dan, kind of poke a little bit further into what that issue is. And while he's doing that, I will see if I can find that file and get it audible for everybody here.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's a noise. So it's knowing computer noises. Are you a PC or a Mac?
Oh, PC. I've got a Dell 690 Precision workstation
Well,
with an M-Audio 192 audio file card. And
okay.
We're into the mixer from there.
Yeah, well, I have generally found that, whether it's PC or Mac, or whatever, computer noises are usually interference within the computer. And you're talking, minus 75 dB really is, if you can hear it, you got great hearing, because that's, it's probably more a matter of what frequency it's at, or where, what particular bandwidth or band range that we're seeing this noise at.
Now let's see if we can hear it.
Okay,
here's
a second.
Hang on. If I put it up.
Here, let's listen. I'm not hearing anything.
I'm not hearing anything yet, but that's probably not your fault.
Or not minus 35 dB in the ambience,
Let me try another way. Here we go. We're going to try it one more time.
That's not the way. Well, that's a bad.
All right, that's enough for me to hear.
That sounds like RF, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like RF. That sounds like the computer clock.
Well,
basically.
the thing is, I have it plugged in. I have the computer and all that filtered through a very expensive power conditioning unit that should be eliminating any of that.
Well, that's not coming from the power outside the computer. It's coming from inside the computer.
Inside the computer.
Yeah. It's the computer. The short answer is it's the computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of a sound card are you using?
M-Audio file 192.
Oh,
An internal sound card.
Yes.
Okay, so it may not be shielded very well because it's picking up radiation, basically RFI, radio frequency interference, from the computer itself, which the inside of a computer case is a very hostile environment between heat and incredible amounts of high frequency noise, high power. All this stuff is going on in there, and while I have known people to have really good results with some internal PCI cards, such as the Echo Mia, which is the one I used to use when I was a PC user, with really good results. Occasionally, they pick up too much noise. You could relocate the card, try a different slot. Move it as far over to one end of the machine as possible.
Right.
But right now, that's be the best possible fix I can think of for something like that. Being the noise floor that it is, a noise gate set correctly would take care of that very, very easily. But I completely understand you wanting to eliminate it, because I can understand it's just barely there, but enough to drive you bats.
Well, it all sums up. You have the room noise on top of that, then the computer fan noise, which I've got shielded with moving blankets. But the externals, like that other guy was talking about, are a factor as well. And by the time I get the mic open and there's a room level, my noise level is at minus about 37 to minus 42.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it sounds like, you can put a lot of time into fixing this problem.
Environment, I have to use noise reduction to get rid of everything.
Yeah, you can spend a lot of energy fixing this one problem, or you can go after the worst problem first. And when it comes to noise, that's always the right course of action. Because white noise, the interesting about white noise is if you have some white noise at 40 dB and you have some white noise at 60 dB, the two of them don't add up and create a new white noise at a louder volume. That's what's really interesting about white noise. It will be 40 dB. So it's always going to be as loud as the loudest source of noise, right? Okay. So you can do everything until you're blue in the face to reduce all those lower level noises, but it's the highest level noise that you're dealing with that's the one that you're going to hear. So always start with the loudest thing first and work your way down. It's like the weakest link in the chain. You fix the one problem, now that goes away. Now you're going, oh, now it's like minus 45. That's pretty good. Well, what's the next loudest thing? You fix that, and so on and so forth. So I'd say you're chasing after the wrong issue right now. Don't spend a lot more time fixing that noise.
Go after the bottom and work up. Start at the loud one and work down.
Absolutely.
Right.
This is something I didn't know until a couple years ago. When somebody told me this, I was like, well, okay. Mike Summer took credit for that one. You got it, Mike. He's in the chat room. I was trying to remember who said that. It was Mike. It's an interesting fact about noise, but noise, white noise, doesn't add on top of each other and sum together to create a new, louder noise. The physics of sound don't do that. So knowing that fact, definitely start at the loud thing and work your way down.
Okay, that would be a toss-up between... Well, I mean, I unplugged the freezer. I'll send you another sample, off showtime.
Yeah, we'd be happy to hear
room ambience itself, which would be the loudest thing after that.
All right, great. Sounds great. Well, thanks for calling in. We're glad we were able to squeeze you in.
Oh, thanks. You already have your bad audio of the week.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, we were going to run out of time for that anyway. All right, that officially qualifies as bad audio of the week.
All right.
Pretty bad, actually.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Well, that was interesting. That's an unmistakable sound, though, when you hear RF like that. And it's definitely stuff coming from the internal part of the computer. I remember when I used to have a PC back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I think I had an AT. It's like before XT computers. Internal sound cards just produce that kind of stuff. And so they're not the best choice. But like you said, George, there are some better ones like Delta. And what was the one you mentioned? The
Echo Mia.
Echo, right. The Echo Mia.
It's a real nice one. Balanced in and out, tip ring sleeve, 1/4-inch connectors, no preamps, no other garbage in that thing. It's just a real pristine, clean sounding card.
That's great. All right. Well, so that hopefully will help him out. So we continue on here. We did want to talk a little bit about Source Connect while we can. Yeah. We do have another caller we want to get on in just a couple of minutes. And, of course, she just gave out her phone number, so now everyone's going to be calling her.
That was my idea. I'm not worried about it.
It was your idea.
We're all friends. It's the chat room.
That's right.
Yeah, she has a Skype issue, so we're going to bring her on by phone.
Okay, like everybody else tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those days. But do you want to go to the break first, or should we? Do you want to talk a little more before we go to the break?
Well, let's talk a little bit about ISDN and Source Connect. Now I've used Source Connect, and I've done national flight spots using Source Connect, and I did my demo was done in LA, but I was still sitting down here in the black hole of Calcutta in Buffalo. And it worked fine. I've never really experienced a real major problem with it. It's they're coming along, like you said, George. They're developing it. It's been around what now? 4 years, 5 years now.
Yeah, I think it's pushing 5 years now.
And it's not too hard to set up, especially if you have somebody like George help you set it up, because he's really good at it.
The Source Connect folks are very good. They're knowledgeable, very helpful. But they're used to working with engineers, audio geeks, stuff like that.
That wouldn't be most of us.
Right. So, you can buy the license through my company, and I'll charge you the same price they do. And since they do give me a little margin as a reseller, it makes it possible for me to, spend a little extra time with you and make sure that the installation goes as smoothly as possible. I'll try to find a problem before you run into it. I've got a lot of detailed instructions. I've got video tutorials. and all sorts of stuff to make it easier to install. But yeah, it's definitely a hot button topic right now. Do I need ISDN? Do I need Source Connect? Is one a replacement for the other? My personal opinion right now is that they're not interchangeable in regards to they are interchangeable in regards to sound quality. In fact, Source Connect can achieve a higher sound quality than ISDN can. That's because it's using a better codec.
Codec, yeah.
Called AAC, and ISDN has a AC, but nobody uses it. Long story, so it's got a really good quality. The fact that you can use it on the internet, which is a plus and a minus, means you can use it anywhere the internet's good enough. No ISDN line to have to deal with. But if you have Source Connect, I don't think you can tell the client that you have ISDN. While there are ways to bridge the two, and I've actually helped put together a business called Out of Here that makes their living doing nothing but that, patching a wire and a patch bay from a Source Connect or a digital interface to Pro Tools, and then the other end goes into an ISDN codec, a Zephyr in this case, and for those that need to be available to their clients because they're wearing those golden handcuffs, slapped on their wrists by like shows like Entertainment Tonight and people that do affiliates and all that stuff where they need 20 minutes notice for jobs. They rely on that. I mean, it's crucial for them to be able to keep up the connection with the client. But for those of us, the rest of us mere mortals, it is a great technology for studios that want to have more control over what's going on. They want immediate gratification. They want to hear what their results are going to be as they're recording it. And they want to give direction at the same time. And for those kinds of clients, that's where Source Connect is going to come into play. And it's not all clients. As a matter of fact, the majority of them are real happy to not have to ever talk to you. They just want to send the file and get the script, get the audio back,
Especially if they've been talking to me on the phone for 20 minutes. I don't get enough adult conversation, so.
Tell me about
it. Yeah, and you know exactly what I mean. So that kind of stuff happens. But and I think that Source Connect really does work really, really well. I had ISDN for a short while. Well, it was longer than a short while. I actually had Audio TX,
sure.
which is was an internal card in my computer.
Sure.
Back when I ran a PC, which shows you how long ago it was. It would work. It was okay, but trying to get the phone company to set it up, there was a long distance charge. There was the monthly fee besides. You've got to be able to justify the cost of having ISDN.
Yeah.
If it's demanded of you that you have to have it, you got to have it.
Yeah,
but I'm not of the philosophy of you get ISDN to get ISDN work. You work to get ISDN work.
Yeah, there's a really thin sword, razor's edge, where that actually may make a difference. But you got to be at this for a while. I mean, if you're dabbling or you've just finished coaching, don't even think about it.
Right, exactly.
But if you've been at this 5-10 years or more, and you're at that point where you want to start doing some larger market clients and the possibility, or maybe even land an agent, if you got an agent out there, they may actually be the ones that start telling you that you're losing out on work because you don't have it.
Right.
But until that happens, save your money.
Right. And also, if you've got a local studio around and you happen to you find a job and they said, do you have ISDN? And it's not scheduled for that day, you can always call a local studio that has ISDN, and they'll be more than happy to let you come in. Charge you a little bit of a rental fee if you're,
sure.
For half an hour or something like that. But then you're on ISDN. Then if you've got a client that's going to continue to want to use you, then you get ISDN.
Sure. I got a few questions in the chat room actually. Let me fire them off here.
Okay.
How much is Source Connect? Source Connect is $650 for the standard version, which works well for most home voiceover studio users. It's a lifetime license. Once you own the license, it's good for forever. You have to use an iLock, which is about $40, but that allows you to take that license and literally go from computer to computer. You could use your home computer, your MacBook, and it's portable from machine to machine. Upgrades if there's a significant upgrade, they might charge a small fee to make the upgrade, but all updates and debugging and all that stuff, of course, is included. ISDN, you're talking, let's just say you go the conventional route and get yourself like a used Telos Zephyr for $1,500, get the lines installed and all that stuff. You're going to need about 2,000 of those things that Dan's holding to get started, minimum, I'd say. ISDN stands for I Still Don't Know. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, somebody else answered the question before I could. Integrated Services Digital Network is what ISDN stands for. I still like the acronym. I still don't know. But N with a no with an N, you know. Source Connect it seems to really be gaining traction in the voiceover world. Actually, I got to be honest. Until I kind of really started, pushing Source Connect in the voiceover world, the makers of Source Connect, Source Elements, didn't really know that market was out there, and didn't really understand that there would be such a demand for their software in that area. So it's a really small company. I mean, it's just a couple of people that run this thing, and Rebekah is like the chief of all technology over there, and she's doing what she can to stay on top of the trends. I mean, everybody wants to see an iPad version, of course, and that's got an incredible number of barricades, most of them set up by Apple, to being able to do that. But she's doing a real good job of trying to stay up on top of things. She finally came out with a version that's standalone, where it used to have to be a plug-in in Pro Tools, or you'd have to run some other software to be able to make it work. It's finally now basically as simple to use as Skype. Once it's installed, it's very much like Skype. Launch, log in, and then choose your user and connect.
Find your user, and yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got another caller coming up in just a couple of minutes. I guess we've had bad audio of the week, haven't we? You're not going to get much worse than that.
No, I don't think so.
All righty. So we'll be right back after this on East West Audio Body Shop. Stay right here.
VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com. VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com.
All right, Dan, we're live.
What? Huh? What?
I wanted to throw you a curveball. Every show, there should be one good, solid curveball.
All righty. So anyway, we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop, and glad to have you with us. We got lots of people in the chat room with us tonight, which is really great. I was having dinner with a friend of mine who's probably in there, and I was saying, do you like watching the show? And she goes, well, we have a great time in the chat room too. And I can see there's a lot of you in there and asking great questions, and that's the great part about doing the show is it's totally interactive. We know you're there. We can see who's watching, and feel free to ask your questions there. And it helps out a lot. It makes it your show.
It's interactive. It keeps the flow going. It just makes it a lot more fun.
Exactly. That's what we want
for everybody.
Anyway, okay. I think we've got our next caller on. Do we not?
Yes, we do.
All right, good evening, East West Audio Body Shop. Gee, who's calling?
Hello, y'all. It's Kelly Buttrick from lovely Athens, Georgia.
Hello, Kelly. How are you this evening?
Well, other than not being able to get Skype to work, I'm doing great. So I'm on the old phone patch.
Okay, well, that works too. Now, the phone patch. Now, you actually have a phone patch?
I absolutely do.
You have the hybrid or?
Oh, now you're talking text.
Like I said,
tell you what, actually, before I got up here into my studio, I printed out what the engineer had told me to buy so that I could maybe sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Is it JK Audio?
No, it's the Telos, Telos.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the Telos hybrid. Yeah.
That's spendy.
It's big.
You got the Telos one rack-mounted one for $800?
No, it was under $800.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, good for you.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So what can we do for you tonight?
First of all, I just wanted to say thank y'all very much. I think you guys are great, and just the generosity that you show by sharing your expertise blows my mind. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Our pleasure.
I don't always catch you guys on Sunday because that's bedtime for the kids. So I just listen to you in the car, much to their chagrin, but you guys it's hard to compete with Selena Gomez. Anyway, and thank you for your great guests and just all that you guys do. I mean, Dave Courvoisier and John Florian, they're wonderful people, and thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, here is my issue, because I have not had my home studio for very long, but I've been doing voiceover work for about 15 years, so I haven't had to deal with this stuff. But when I have a project that requires a variance in vocal energy, say you're going from something really high energy to a whisper within the same project, sometimes even within the same sentence. And this is really techy. Sometimes my colors go outside of the lines.
Right.
On high energy. And then when I drop to that whisper, there are barely blips on the screen. And I don't know how to balance that out. Is that something afterwards or?
That's a good question for Dan.
Right. Okay. And here's, when I'm consulting with people and they ask me this question, I always show them this. This is actually ripped this out of an old tape recorder.
And I'll tell you what that is. It's a VU meter. It's the old thing with a needle that waves back and forth that says VU in it for everybody that can't see.
It goes like that. That's what you're looking at. What we have now with software, when you're looking at a level meter, and it's measured in VUs, which stands for volume units. In the old days, back when I was in radio, and some of you may be out there who still are in radio, when you're on the air, you would do what's called riding the levels. And you'd have your hand on the pot, the potentiometer. How's that, George?
Right.
And you would ride the level, making sure that you didn't overmodulate. Which I actually, in retrospect, in looking back at the technology that was still very advanced, if you know anything about transmitters and Orban optimods and all the compressors and things that, like, when you would send a signal out over a radio station, over a transmitter, even if you were overmodulating, it would still suck your volume back down so you wouldn't overmodulate. Unless, of course, you were, popping your P's or something like that. And even those would get attenuated. Mm-hmm. So riding a level really was only a matter of making sure you were loud enough so people could hear you on the air. But when you're recording, there's a couple of techniques you can use. First off, if you're going to be, changing intensity, one of the things you got to do is like what you see a lot of singers do. If you're going to get louder, back off the microphone a little bit, talk a little bit off axis. It's something you've got to practice. As you're looking at your script, it's like, okay, I'm going to get loud here, I'm going to get loud here. Mark it and say, okay, and now I'm going to back away from the microphone, because if I talk louder, it's going to overmodulate if I'm too close to the microphone. So it's mic technique more than it is setting a level. You want to set a good average level for what you normally would be at your 5 to 7 inches from your microphone, about that far. And so you're not overmodulating, and you can go into the red every now and again, but you don't want it to peak where you see that red thing at the top stay there, when you drop out. But still, with modern digital recording, which is such an improvement over tape, and I know George will back me up on this, you've got a lot of dynamic range to work with. Even if you go over zero sometimes, depending on the quality, the temp,
it is. How quick the sound is, the transient. If it's quick, you might never hear the clipping.
You'll never hear the clip. I mean, if you're constantly clipping, I mean, if you're set too hot, you'll clip and you'll notice it. But if you're set low enough to where you're peaking at -3 tops, you might want to set to peak at -6, -4, somewhere around there, and you'll be fine. And again, if you get too loud, you back off your mic and you learn to practice it. It's all mic technique. You don't really have to worry about that too much, except you don't want to set it too high.
Yeah. Have you seen singers on stage with a handheld mic, and sometimes they almost go over the top with it, but they're like, and they're like way off the mic, and they go way off the mic sometimes. They've really mastered the art of distance control on the microphone. And as a voice actor, you have to do the same thing, except it's actually a little more work, because you can't just move your hand. You have to move your entire
You've got to move your whole body.
It's a very physical thing, but that's really important. Having a really quiet studio with a low noise floor, of course, plays into that. If your studio is quiet enough, then you can run your levels into your computer at a lower. You can peak at a lower setting. Say maybe peak at like -12. So when you have those occasional outbursts, you have 12 decibel range of headroom to work with. Whereas you normally say peak around -6. Peak around when you're doing stuff that's really wide dynamic range like this, peak around -12, maybe even -18, and then make up that gain later, in the software, normalizing or something like that. But there's some other things you can do, like compression, and if compression is done just right, it can be done in such a way that it doesn't sound compressed, yet it still has a very even sound to it. And normally I would expect the production that you're doing the work for to do that for you, but I know that a lot of the jobs these days, they're expecting it to provide them a file that's ready for the air, so to speak.
It's seamless, as we say.
Yeah. And is that the case for you? Like they want a file that's ready to sell?
It depends on the client. I do a lot of direct work here in Athens, and they have to have it broadcast ready.
Right.
But then the ones I work with out of Atlanta, they just take whatever I give them. And I have been stepping back off the mic when I get loud. I was just hoping you guys had a magic wand I could wave where I wouldn't have to. I'm lazy.
Well, there's technology, there's technique, and there's plain old engineering. And the plain old engineering technique is exactly what Dan said. You got a hand on the gain knob and you're riding it. But I do not ever expect a talent doing voice acting to do that technique. It will distract you. It'll take you out of the character. It's nearly impossible to do. So I would say not do that. I would say err on the side of recording too low and bring up the gain later. Even if you have to do it section by section, where you have a really quiet section or a really quiet word that you have to gain up 6 dB, and then the rest of the stuff is good. But compressors, they're real tough to do. But I've been able to help a lot of people get a compression preset that is able to deal with a lot of that without sounding like it's been squashed. Like the stuff you hear on the radio has been obliterated through so much processing, it blows your mind. And if that's the target, that where this file is going to end up, then go for it. Who cares? Because it's going to be hammered on the radio. But if it's for web or for television or something like that, you really do need to watch out for over processing. And there are some techniques that I know Dan and I could teach you to really improve that.
Great. I just have to learn to speak like you guys do and understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I think you lost her when you started talking compression there, George.
I thought you were going to say, I'm not a voice actor. I don't know how to speak like a voice actor. But,
no, I listen to you guys every week on the rebroadcast. I listen to you guys, and some of it goes over my head. I feel like I'm taking a trip to Mars. But I just am hoping that by osmosis, this is coming through. And but really, I've learned so much every single week when you guys do this.
That's great. I'm glad you're learning.
Yeah. It's all a matter of experience. It's not something you're going to learn overnight. Like you said, you've been doing voice work for a long time, but you're new to home studios. And those of us that have spent a lot of time in studios, we just know what's going on. But when we started, it's like, what does this thing do? There was a lot of that. You got to learn. It's experience. You take the information that we can give you, do a little bit more research, give us a call. We'll be happy to explain it a little bit further to you, and that's why we're here. And it's our pleasure to do that. To learn these things makes you sound better, and when you sound better, we all sound better. George, I don't know about you, but.
Well, y'all, thank you so much. Thanks for all you guys do. And again, sorry I'm not able to hang out with you guys live on Sundays, but I do appreciate it. And thank you for rebroadcasting.
You're
fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and taking some time out of your busy family evening. And we'll keep giving you good stuff to listen to.
Awesome. See y'all later.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Well, as they say on Car Talk, you've wasted another perfectly good hour.
I love those guys.
That's a great show. But anyway, and we're sort of like them, but sort of not. We have our own thing.
We don't laugh as much. We try, but
we try. I try to make you laugh, George, and I seem to succeed most of the time. But it's great having you with us here on this show. Again, our email address, if you want to be on the show and ask a question like Kelly or Raul or Lee or Tom did a little earlier, it is ewebshop@gmail.com. And we want to hear from you, and we want you to tell your friends to join us. And I guess we'll be back next week, won't we?
I think we will be back next week, Dan. We might skip to that, slightly intense schedule starting, what did we say? Probably maybe
after
in July.
Next week.
Maybe,
yeah.
I think it'd be after next week or possibly after July. I know we've got a lot of guests lined up that want to be on, so we'll just play it by ear, but we'll keep you guys abreast of what's happening, and so you always know what's the latest.
Excellent. All righty. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight, I guess. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you next Sunday.